In the bustling city of Hong Kong, a media tycoon named Jimmy Lai has become a symbol of resistance. Born into poverty, this self-made billionaire is the founder of Next Digital and has grown to be a prominent figure in Hong Kong's pro-democracy movement. His media empire, which includes the widely read tabloid Apple Daily, has been instrumental in shaping public opinion, and his influence extends far beyond the realm of business. Known for his unwavering stance on democratic freedoms, Lai has never shied away from criticizing Beijing's policies. His words, often bold and unfiltered, resonate with those who yearn for a truly democratic Hong Kong. Yet his defiance is not without consequence. His outspokenness against the mainland's tightening grip over the city's autonomy has made him a target, leading to his arrest and subsequent detention. But his outspokenness has not come without a price. In 2020, Beijing imposed the national security law, changing the landscape of Hong Kong's freedom and rule of law. This law, draped in a cloak of national security concerns, has dramatically altered the socio-political fabric of Hong Kong. The national security law consists of 4 main offences: secession, subversion, terrorism, and collusion with foreign or external forces. Its broad and vaguely defined terms give the authorities sweeping powers to clamp down on activities they deem a threat to national security. This law has raised significant concerns over the erosion of Hong Kong's autonomy and freedoms. The freedom of speech, a cornerstone of any democratic society, has been particularly impacted. Individuals can now be prosecuted for expressing views that allegedly undermine the Chinese government or are seen as secessionist or subversive. This has stifled the vibrant political discourse that once existed in the city and has created a climate of fear and self-censorship. The law's implementation has been met with widespread criticism. Human rights organizations and international bodies argue that it undermines the one country, two systems principle, which allows Hong Kong to retain its own legal and economic systems separate from mainland China. Critics also highlight that the law lacks transparency and its broad language can be used to target political dissent. Furthermore, the law has been used to target high-profile figures in the pro-democracy movement, like Jimmy Lai. His arrest and charge under this law symbolize the extent to which Beijing is willing to go to suppress dissent and control the narrative in Hong Kong. The national security law's implications are far-reaching, affecting not just the political landscape, but also the societal and cultural dynamics of Hong Kong. It has created an atmosphere of uncertainty and apprehension, and the city's future hangs in the balance. Under this law, Jimmy Lai was arrested and charged with colluding with foreign forces. This charge, as nebulous as it sounds, could lead to severe penalties, including life imprisonment, reflecting the stark reality of the state of freedom and the rule of law in Hong Kong under the national security law. In August 2020, Hong Kong woke up to the shocking news of Jimmy Lai's arrest. This was a day that marked a dramatic shift in the city's fight for democracy. Lai, a self-made millionaire and founder of the largest pro-democracy newspaper in Hong Kong, Next Digital, was taken into custody under the sweeping national security law. In the lead-up to his arrest, Lai had been a vocal critic of the Beijing government's tightening grip on Hong Kong's autonomy. His newspaper Apple Daily was renowned for its unabashed criticism of the Chinese government, making him a prime target under the new law. The charges against Lai were severe. He was accused of colluding with foreign forces, a nebulous term that under the national security law could mean anything from soliciting international support for Hong Kong's pro-democracy movement to simply criticizing the Chinese government. The news of Lai's arrest sent shockwaves through the international community. Human rights advocates and democratic nations expressed their outrage, viewing Lai's arrest as a blatant attack on freedom of speech and the rule of law. This was not just about one man's fight for democracy, but a litmus test for the future of Hong Kong under Beijing's increasingly authoritarian rule. Meanwhile, in Hong Kong, reactions were mixed. Some viewed Lai as a hero, a beacon of hope in a dark time. Others, particularly those aligned with the Beijing government, saw him as a traitor, stirring up trouble. Lai's arrest was not just a singular event. It was the culmination of a series of actions under the national security law aimed at stifling dissent and consolidating Beijing's control over Hong Kong. It was a clear message to the people of Hong Kong and the world. Beijing would not tolerate opposition. Lai's arrest marked the beginning of his long and controversial trial. a trial that would not only decide the fate of Jimmy Lai, but also set the tone for the future of freedom and democracy in Hong Kong. After over 3 years in detention without trial, Jimmy Lai's case finally began on December 18, 2023. This marked a critical juncture not only for Lai himself, but also for the broader landscape of freedom and rule of law in Hong Kong. The courtroom was a charged space, filled with anticipation. The prosecution, representing the Hong Kong government, came armed with a litany of charges, primarily hinging on the accusation of colluding with foreign forces. This was a charge levied under the national security law, a piece of legislation that has been a point of contention since its implementation by Beijing. The evidence presented by the prosecution was manifold. They brought forth records of Lai's interactions with international figures and organizations, painting a picture of a man who they argued was actively working to undermine the state. They pointed to his vocal criticism of the national security law and his calls for international intervention as proof of his alleged collusion. On the other side of the room, the defense team for Lai was equally robust. They argued that Lai's actions were not acts of collusion, but rather expressions of his right to freedom of speech. They posited that his interactions with foreign entities were part of his role as a media tycoon, not a nefarious plot against the state. Throughout the trial, there were several significant moments that captured the public's attention. One such moment was when the defense brought forth witnesses who attested to Lai's character and his commitment to democratic values. Another was when the prosecution presented a series of emails and communications that they argued demonstrated Lai's intent to destabilize the government. The trial was not just a legal battle, but also a battle of narratives. The prosecution sought to portray Lai as a threat to national security, while the defense endeavored to present him as a champion of democracy. The tension between these two narratives was palpable throughout the proceedings, reflecting the larger clash between authoritarianism and democratic ideals in Hong Kong. The trial was also marked by its potential implications, with Lai being the first person to be charged with colluding with foreign forces under the national security law. The verdict in his case could set a precedent for future cases. Furthermore, the trial was seen as a litmus test for the state of rule of law in Hong Kong, with many viewing it as indicative of the extent to which the national security law could be used to quell dissent. As the trial unfolded, it became clear that this was not just about Jimmy Lai. This was about the future of Hong Kong and the rights of its people. It was about the balance between national security and individual freedoms, and where the line should be drawn. The trial of Jimmy Lai is a significant event, with implications far beyond the courtroom. It is a stark reminder of the power of the individual in the face of institutional might, and the tenuous balance between security and freedom in our modern world. The trial of Jimmy Lai is more than just a legal case. It's a litmus test for the state of freedom and the rule of law in Hong Kong. The implications of this trial ripple beyond the courtroom and the fate of one man, reaching into the heart of Hong Kong's future. This case has the potential to set a precedent, shaping the landscape of the pro-democracy movement. If Jimmy Lai, a prominent figure in this movement, is convicted, it signals a chilling message to others who dare to challenge the state's authority. The verdict could also influence international relations. Countries around the world are watching closely, their perceptions of Hong Kong's autonomy and the rule of law hanging in the balance. The outcome of this trial could either affirm their faith in Hong Kong's judicial independence or shatter it, potentially impacting diplomatic relations and economic ties. Public sentiment, both locally and internationally, is divided. Some see Lai as a hero, a beacon of freedom and democracy, while others see him as a traitor, colluding with foreign forces against his own nation. These differing viewpoints have stirred a maelstrom of debate, turning the trial into a global spectacle. The international response has been equally varied. Human rights organizations and democratic nations have expressed concern over Lai's detention without trial, crying foul over the perceived erosion of human rights. On the other hand, Beijing has defended the national security law, maintaining that it's necessary to safeguard national sovereignty and stability. As we navigate this labyrinth of legal complexities and political tension, we must remember the human element. At the center of this storm is a 76-year-old man who has spent over 3 years in detention without trial. His resilience in the face of adversity is a testament to the enduring spirit of those who yearn for freedom. As we continue to watch the trial unfold, one thing is clear: the case of Jimmy Lai will have profound implications, not just for the man himself, but for the future of Hong Kong.